slow my business down to a crawl if I only did business with people. We have things like Craigslist, eBay, Amazon, just a multitude of services that I have no idea who these people are. And yet I trust that they will deliver the product that I paid for. I just did that. I just bought some insulation foam thing that comes in tanks. I don't know where the company is. I don't know who they are. They have a website. I send them my money, put it on a credit card, send it to them, and the tanks show up 3 days later. Fast. That time I actually ordered it, well, it would have been in the middle of the night. I think it was one of the airports, either in Entebbe or Kigali or something like that. I placed my order. It's middle of the night for them, and yet it all works. Why? Because there's a speed of trust. There's trust going on there. Next, principle number 4, win-win is best. Look at Philippians 4:2-4. It says, look not every man on his own things, but every man also on the things of others. When I was in college, we used this verse to justify cheating on the test. Isn't that what it says? You're taking a test, it says don't look on your own stuff, look on hers too. Okay, win-win is best. Again, in the 7 habits, one of the habits is win-win or no deal. Okay, so win-win is best. I want to make sure that if I do a deal with somebody, they win and I win. If not, I don't do the deal. Now this enters into, Karen was buying some birthday gifts for one of my nieces, and they forgot to charge her for one thing. As she checked out, she was done. She could have walked out of the store with it, but they forgot to charge her. She says, I think you forgot to charge me for this. The cashier looks at it, looks at the thing, says, oh, I'm sorry. It's terrible because her supervisor was standing right behind her, so she looks bad. But why would Karen do that? Why don't you just walk out, because it was worth $10, why don't you just walk out with it? Because, hey, you were done, you were through, you were on your way out. Why not? Why wouldn't she do that? Huh? She wouldn't sleep at night. Yeah, and God blesses you while you sleep, so you need to sleep. No, it's because it's dishonest, right? It's because it's dishonest, but from a business standpoint, that's not a win-win situation. That would be a win-lose situation. The store loses and we win. And we refuse to do that. I'm not going to do one of those. I'm not going to do that deal. I'm only going to do a win-win. That's Philippians says we should be as concerned about the other person's welfare as we are about ours. Okay, so next one, diligence. The slothful, it says, the slothful man saith, there is a lion in the street. A lion without, I shall be slain in the streets. Slothfulness or laziness. Oh my goodness. I had to fire a guy because he had all these excuses for why he wasn't going to come in today. He was a nice guy and he did work. He has 3 kids and a wife. And yet if you look at my texts for him, one after another, it's like, oh, I'm not feeling too good. I'm not going to show up today. Oh, my son got out of the house and we had to look for him last night, so I just don't feel like I could go into the office today. I don't feel like I could go work today. What? You know? The slothful says, he comes up with excuses. What did I say at the beginning of my first session? What did I say? I want truth. They're making up lies about being a lion in the street. You guys might actually have a lion in your streets. I don't know. Uganda, right? There were monkeys out there at least. But he's just making it up. So when your son or your daughter comes up with some lame excuse about why they're not going to do this, my grandson, oh, I'm glad I'm not raising children anymore. My grandson, he's like playing around, he gets everything messy, and his mom, I witnessed this, his mom tells him, pick up your toys and put them away. Okay, so first he says, why do I have to do everything? You know. I'm like, Becky, that's yours. And then she says, no, says, I want you to pick up your toys. And he looks down and he's like, I have a broken leg. kid, you're on the floor. Even if you had a broken leg, you can still pick up your toys and put them away. At that point, see, if we're parents that are versed in Proverbs, we bring this up. The slothful man says there's a line without. Make up an excuse that doesn't exist. I have a broken leg. What? You couldn't come up with anything better than that? I mean, he needs help with creativity. Proverbs 26:14 says, as the door turns upon its hinges, so does the slothful man upon his bed. That was me this morning. Because I woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning and I'm wide awake. And I'm like a door on a hinge. I'm like this, and then flip this way, and then flip this way, and then flip this way, and then flip this way. Okay, that's because I'm used to Tennessee time. I don't know what time it is here in Uganda. And there's no point in me getting up at 4 a.m. There's no coffee. So, but your teenagers in particular, how many of you have teenagers? And they just want to stay in bed in the morning. Flip back and forth like this, like a door on its hinges. That's kind of a funny illustration, isn't it? God puts that in there. It's like, there it is. Okay, 15, it says, the slothful man hideth his hand in his bosom, and it grieveth him to bring it again to his mouth. This is the idea that he's just sitting there with his hand like this. He's like, man, I would like to have that taco. But it's too much work to pick it up and put it in my mouth, and then I'd have to chew it. These proverbs are funny. That's why we teach them to our kids. I mean, there's the whole stories here, you know. Look at this, verse 16. The sluggard is wiser in his own conceit than 7 men that can render a reason. Have you ever seen that happen? You're talking to somebody and they're just like, no, can't do it. Nope. It won't work. Nope. You have somebody, 7 men that are already successful and know what they're doing. They say, you know what? If you got up and you picked up that shovel and you actually dug, you'd be able to get a hole there. No, I don't think so. I think you learned from me that he's allergic to hard work. 7 men that can render reason. This guy is wiser in his own mind than 7 men. You got to know these proverbs so we can use them on our kids. Use them on ourselves. All right. They say this man is sitting on his front porch. The government truck comes up, and one guy gets out of one side and he grabs a shovel and he digs a hole. And then he puts the shovel back up and he gets back in. And then the other guy gets out of the other side, he grabs a different shovel, and he fills the hole back in, and they move 20 feet, and they do it again. They do that about 3 times, and the guy that's on the porch says, okay, wait a second, hold on, guys. One of you guys is getting out and digging a hole. The other guy is getting out and filling in the hole that the other guy just dug. I know you work for the government, but what's going on here? And the guy looks at his partner, looks at the guy, and says, it's not our fault that the guy that plants trees didn't show up this morning. All right. That was what? Yeah? Oh, I'm wasting time. Yes. That was a waste of time. Okay. Proverbs 12:27. The slothful man roasteth not that which he took in hunting, but the substance of a diligent man is precious. I owe this one to Al Martin. He goes through all these proverbs. He does stories. So here's the story. The guy goes out. His family is hungry. Like, Daddy, I'm hungry. Can you go give us something to eat? That whole story is right in here. See that? Roasteth not that which he doesn't finish the job. So in our home, we had this saying that we would do all the time because we use garbage cans. I'm sure you guys do too. We use garbage cans, and I would tell one of the kids, empty the garbage. So they would take the garbage out, they would tie it up, they would take it out to where it goes and drop it there. The next person that opens the drawer that has the garbage can in it looks inside and says, what? What? Come on, moms, you know what's happening here, huh? What? There's no what? No bag in the thing. The job is not finished. The job is not finished. Whenever that happened to me and I'd open it up and it's like, who didn't roast the garbage? And of course, the visitors we had over for Sunday afternoon would say, what are we going to eat? But see, we had that saying in our house. If you didn't finish the job, you didn't do the last step of the job, you didn't roast. You went out, you did the hunting, you brought it in, you did everything except for the last step. And so you got to teach your children, we got to teach ourselves, a job is never done until it's done. That's what this proverb is saying. Principle 6, prudence in debt. Take care of your finances. Proverbs 11:15. He that is surety for a stranger shall smart for it, but he that hateth suretyship is sure. What is suretyship? That's a weird name. But it's when you co-sign for somebody else. Have you ever given somebody a loan or something and it's just like so hard to get them to pay it back? Yeah. I have a situation going on in my own life like that right now with somebody that I helped out in Mexico. And it's like, in English we say pulling hen's teeth. Do you know how many teeth a hen has? None. So it's hard to pull the teeth that aren't there. And it's just irritating. And it's irritating on our friendship. And it's irritating on everything because it's just like, oh. So this proverb tells me I shouldn't have done that. I should have listened to my wife, who said, don't do that. Oh well. The rich ruleth over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender. Don't get into debt. Everybody wants to sell you something on payments, don't they? Yeah. Buy this, it's only, I don't know, $40,000 a month. Oh, that's not too bad. Okay, let's do that. And then you got this guy coming by every month, and you're a servant. Now you became his servant. All right, so principle number 7, a good name. Proverbs 22:1 says, a good name is rather to be chosen than great riches, and loving favor rather than silver and gold. We talked about that. Chad talked about that, how when you have a good name, people will do business with you easily and quickly. In that book that I'm talking about with the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he talks about the emotional bank account. If I make deposits in your emotional bank account, the way I make deposits is I do nice things for you. I'm trustworthy. I do what I say I'm going to do. I have integrity. You get used to dealing with me, and you say, that is a stand-up guy. I can deal with him. You have people like that in your life, right? You're like, I know that they will be good to their word. And that gives you the ability to go speedily with things. I can say, sure, I'll lend you money because I know my son and I have a great relationship. And in that kind of stuff, if we pass things back and forth. It's like, if he borrows one of my vehicles, I know he's going to return it with a full tank. If I borrow one of his vehicles, I'm going to return it with a full tank. And we get that. So a good name, once you get that reputation, a good name is worth more than rubies, like we said. Okay, how do we get a good name? Here's a couple of things. Proverbs, again, 11:26. He that withholdeth corn, the people shall curse him, but blessing shall be upon the head of him that selleth it. When there's a national disaster, when there's a problem, when there's a scarcity or something, and you have something, a lot of times people want to jack the price up, right? They want to jack the price up because something happened. In the United States, we have hurricanes. Hurricanes come through every once in a while. And one thing that Home Depot has done in the United States is they will absolutely not raise the price on plywood just because a hurricane is coming in. In fact, in some cases, they lower the price to make it easier for people to get the things they need. Now, that hurts them because there are other hardware stores that jack the price up. Hey, everybody needs plywood. I have a stack of plywood. I can sell it for more. Right? That's not what this says. This proverb says, don't withhold. Sell it. And Home Depot has gotten a very good name. Because of that, I always buy my stuff from Home Depot And I also own stock in Home Depot because it has a good name. It does what it says it's going to do. Same thing with you. So how do you get the good name? Be honest with what we say do. Proverbs 11:1. A false balance is abomination to the Lord, but a just weight is his delight. False balance. They had these signs in Mexico because the Mexican gas stations all are Pemex. They're all owned by the government. And some of them will put up a sign. They're changing that now, which is great. But someone will put up a sign, we sell a liter for a liter. Because people have gone around and checked it with a true liter and found out that they're only selling 900 milliliters and they're charging a liter. Okay, so false balance. That's when we're trying to, in English, in America, we say tip the scales. You know what that means? Like put your thumb on the scale. Make it a little bit heavier. Charge more. Not be honest, not be straightforward. See, if we teach our children to do this, to be straightforward and honest, they will be the ones that we will hire. Chad will hire them. I will hire them. They will be the ones that we will hire. Because that's gold. Next one, criticism. Do you accept criticism? A scorner loveth not one that reproveth him, neither will he go unto the wise. He that refuseth instruction despiseth his own soul, but he that heareth reproof getteth understanding. How many of you all, maybe I should talk to the men first, maybe the women, I don't know. How many of you all, when you're driving, like it when your spouse says, ooh, honey, watch out for that car? Anybody like that? I saw it. You didn't have to tell me that. What do you think I am? You think I haven't been driving for 25 years? Oh, I see some people looking at each other. I speak Ugandan now. Looking at these verses, I taught myself, and it took a little bit of time. It wasn't easy. But I taught myself that when my wife tells me, honey, watch out. Did you see that car? Something like that. Instead of saying, what, don't you trust me? I say to her, what do I say? Thank you for telling me. Sometimes I'll say, yes, I did see it, but thank you for telling me. Why? Because my pride of having somebody correct my driving is worth zero. And if she can help me avoid an accident, how much is that worth? We fall into this. We fall into this that God is saying when we get upset when somebody corrects us. And there's wisdom. It says, will not go to the wise. The scorner will not go to the wise, will not seek counsel, will not go over there and get help from somebody. I challenge you to re-examine your life and start welcoming criticism. Start welcoming it, because in all of my business dealings, and we can ask Danny and we can ask Chad, and Dayton, you've seen business happen. In all of our business dealings, how much money have we made from pride? Pride has never paid me $1. It's never paid me a shilling. But when I have accepted advice from people, it has saved me from making some big mistakes. Like I didn't accept the advice about lending this money to this guy. And now it's costing me. And it's not so much the money, it's more the emotional stress or whatever. It's just not pleasant. All right, next one, love of money. He that is greedy of gain troubleth his own house, but he that hateth gifts shall live. hateth gifts. You know, if I had enough time, I could tell you all kinds of stories about how God has blessed us in our sleep. And it's almost to the point where when certain circumstances happen, and it seems like we have no way out, and it seems like things are really bad, it almost has gotten fun, especially when I have to make a choice between either a good name or greed or something like that, and what seems to be the right way to go with business. And it's almost fun. Sometimes we look at each other and we say, let's watch and see what God does here, because this is going to be cool. Now, I can't say I have total faith, but it's gotten to the point I've lived it enough times where I'm like, God is real, and he really can bless me in my sleep. And I can just sit back, because I'm going to go ahead and do the whole good name. I'm going to go to bed. I'm convinced that I should not work on Sunday, okay? That's me. That's the fourth commandment to me, okay? I'm convinced. My software company closes down on Sunday. My landscape companies close down on Sunday. Close down on Sunday. It doesn't matter. And you know what? Sometimes that's hard. I have customers that say, how can you be closed on Sunday? That's when I do all of my book work. That's when I need your help on the phone. I'm going to go to another software because they are open on Sunday and you're closed. You think I haven't heard that? Yeah, I've heard that. But I just look at it and I kind of smile and I say, I'm sorry, but I obey a higher power. And I'm going to let God figure out how he's going to bless me tonight while I sleep. I don't need to make my own way in this world. Same with the landscaping company. Landscaping company, sometimes it will rain for us. It will rain 4 days in a row. And all of a sudden it's sunny on Sunday. And the grass is this tall. And our customers start calling, why aren't you here cutting my grass? Don't you know that it's overgrown? We're closed. They just get voicemail. If God wants me to break his commandments in order to prosper, why would he give me those commandments? If God can bless me, what? In my sleep, then I can trust him. I'll work like crazy 6 days out of the week, but the seventh day, I'm not working. And neither are any of one of my employees came up to me and said, well, why? We want to work. My Mexican employee said, we want to work. We want to work on Sunday. Why won't you let me work on Sunday? I pulled out my Bible. I said, look here. It says, neither you nor your manservant nor your maidservant nor the stranger that's within your gates. It's like, really? It says that? I said, yeah. Well, look, read it. I have a Spanish Bible. He's like, oh. This last never asked me again. Okay. Next one, the desire of a man is his kindness, and a poor man is better than a liar. It's not lie. Anger, rage. I could talk about this all day long. This verse right here, James 1, says, wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath, for the wrath of man worketh not the righteousness of God. My family, where I grew up, it's a missionary family in Mexico, and yet we would yell and scream at each other. And when we were first married, we decided to memorize a book of the Bible, and Karen memorized 1 Peter, and I memorized James. And when I got to this verse, which wasn't very far in, first chapter, the anger of man, what? Does not work the righteousness of God. What does that say, brethren? Let's look for truth here. Real truth. What does that say? That says that as soon as I get angry, am I working the righteousness of God? Soon as I get angry, I am no longer righteous. And I don't know, they talk about this righteous anger and stuff, and it might exist, but I've never had it. Every time I've gotten angry, it's because either I expected somebody to do something for me that they didn't, or somebody did something to me that I didn't like, or somebody didn't fulfill something that they should have done. It's all pride. It's all selfishness. It's all based on me, especially you men. Let your households be households without anger. You've got that split second between when somebody does something, says something, something happens to you, whatever. You got that split second where you can decide. And somebody would say, and I don't think anybody here is going to say, well, it's my Irish temper. But anyway, somebody could say, well, my dad was really mad, and that's why I've got it. Balderdash, you're wrong. Because if you're angry, and mothers, you can get angry too. If you're angry and yelling at your kids like, and the phone rings, you pick it up, yes, hello? You're lying to me. If you say you can't help it. You know you can. You know you can stop. The anger of God does not work the righteousness, or the anger of man does not work the righteousness of God. Doesn't. Let's get it out of our homes. All right, so why do you want to change? Why do you want to start your own business? Change the culture. Talks about this. Ephesians 4:28. This should be the financial goal of Christians. Did you know that the Bible has a financial goal for Christians? When I was studying this, I translated this. I was studying Greek, right, in college. And my professor said, you know, punctuation is very important. Because if we put a couple of commas in the wrong place, it looks way different. Has anybody done this with this verse before? Okay, watch. Let me say it. The way it says, let him who steals steal no more, but rather let him labor working with his hands, right? Let's change the punctuation. Let him who stole steal. No more, let him work with his hands. Okay, that's not what it says. You never looked at that verse like that, and you'll never look at it again without laughing. Anyway, remember these timelines? You mothers that are teaching your children, you know about timelines. The rest of us, we all forgot about them. But the timeline, you know, you have negative numbers on this side and positive numbers on this side. What this is saying, what this verse is saying, is let him who stole, when you're stealing, where are you on a financial timeline? Where are you? You're negative because you're taking away from somebody else. And tomorrow to the young people, I'm going to be talking to them about being on life support and being sustained by their family instead of making their own way in the world financially. We'll talk about that tomorrow with the young people. But you're on the negative because you're taking away production and productivity from somebody else. So what Paul is here saying is let him who stole steal no more. At least come up to zero. Stop stealing. Right? But then he goes on, he says, let him what? Work with his hands. What does that do? That moves you from here because now you have a job and you're making some money. You're making productivity. It's not only money, it's productivity. Money is just a representation of productivity. You're making productivity, so now you're in the plus side. You're paying your own way. And then he says what? That he might what? Have to give to others. So you move from being negative, taking away from others, to supporting yourself, to what? To being able to be generous and give. That's what that verse is saying. That's the financial goal of every Christian. Every young person. That's where we should be. We should have extra. We don't want to live at the limit of our budgets. We don't want to get into debt up to our ears in debt. We want to be able to have a little extra set aside all the time so that we can help others. So, conclusion. Glorify God in your business. Whatsoever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might. That was my watch verse, my key verse, when I came out of Mexico and I started mowing grass. Like, okay, God, if this is what you want me to do, mowing grass, I guess I'm going to have to be the best grass mower there ever was. And I could tell you stories and how God blessed me just beyond our imagination, the way he blessed us when we started following his word. Give it up, guys. We're not smart enough to run our own lives. We're not smart enough to run our own lives. God is there to do it for us. Whatsoever your hand find, do it with all your might. let down your bucket where you are and drink from the blessings of God. Here are a couple of books that I found to be very helpful. You can take them down if you want to. Thank you very much.
Eat in small groups where we stay, and we continue to digest and support each other in this matter. Then the second thing goes to us, with the participants. If we can form small groups where we can meet and continue keep it going in our lives, supporting each other, advising each other in these matters.
Can you get me the Proverbs books? Here you go. These 3 books are by Kevin Swanson on Proverbs, and that would be a great study group for you to get together and to go through these together and see those Proverbs. Proverbs are fantastically practical, aren't they? Just extremely practical. And particularly when you start to compare the Proverbs that are in the Bible with the Proverbs that you guys grew up with, then it becomes just so enlightening. So, I would love
you just share how do you balance between listening and applying, so that you're not listening, finish, take on the next one, listen, finish, take on the next one. Then the second one, listening to you, I've realized that you're not the kind of person that wants to get into the operational side of things. I know you work hard, but you said you're allergic to hard work, which is understandable. But you said you worked very hard as a grass cutter, for lack of a better word. What I want to understand mainly is that you work through people. How do you train your people to a point where you are okay letting them do stuff without you hovering over them?
Okay. The first question was audio books. I subscribe to audible.com, which is an Amazon company right now. And the way I balance, per se, what you're saying, and it's actually 300 books between my son and I, so I didn't read all of them, but I read almost all of them. And part of it is, in audio, I can listen to it at 2 times or 2.5 times speed. And to me, and I do that whenever I'm driving, whenever I'm taking. Remember, one of the reasons to own your own business is that you can invest yourself and time. And so to me, that's investing in myself. And I pick stuff. Right now, I'm reading one on the history of Alaska because I was just there. And so the whole plane trip, like I'm listening to. I usually have my headphones right here in my pocket along with my thing. And so, how do I balance between applying? Most books, except the Bible, of course, but most books will give you 1 or 2 good ideas, and that's about it. So you read the whole book, and you'll get 1 or 2 good ideas. And if you can learn those good ideas, I mean, that's fantastic. Here's one on management that I learned from a book called The 1 Minute Manager. It's fantastic. This is the one thing I learned from it, okay? 1 Minute Manager. Say you're my employee and say I have to correct you, okay? Most of the time I would call you into my office or something, and I would say, and this enters into the second question too. I would call you into my office and I would say, what's your name? I'm sorry? Jesse, that's right. So I say, hey, Jesse, you're a really good employee and I like you. You've been doing a really good job and everything else. What are you feeling right now? Encouraged. You are feeling encouraged? Remember, I called you into my office. Jesse, I want to see you.
I made a mistake.
Okay, what is he feeling? He doesn't know what he's feeling, so what does everybody else know? Not good, right? Not good. Because then the next little tiny word comes out, but, right? And what the 1 Minute Manager taught me to do, and I use it on my children and my family and stuff like that, is I go to Jesse and I say, hey, Jesse, you know, I noticed that you weren't doing a very good job on X, Y, or Z. To my office, how does he feel? I can do it. See, that one little idea came from that one book called The 1 Minute Manager. That's the only idea I got from it, but that's been priceless. Works so much nicer because everything that comes before the but is useless. Nobody pays attention to it, right? Yeah. So, and then the second thing is, how do I delegate? I'm working actually on a book on delegation, on how to delegate. I say it's my spiritual gift. My spiritual gift is delegation. It goes back to when I was a kid. when I was a kid, we lived out on this, we called it the ranch. It was a Bible Institute. We called it the ranch. And what my mom wanted me to do was plant grass. And back there we planted carpet grass. Is that the kind you have here? I'm not sure. St. Augustine, we called it, plant carpet grass. And you had to like make a little hole and put a sprig in there and cover it up and then water it. And so she would assign me a task. She'd say, this is your dirt, this is your dominion today that you need to plant grass in. It'd be about as big as this room or something like that. And then you're free. That's the chore you have. Remember I told you when I was homeschooled that I would have everything done by about 10 a.m., right? In the morning, then I'd be out playing. So I'd ask my mom, is it okay if I wait until about 1 o'clock to plant the grass? 1 o'clock, that's when the sun is up. Hey, we'll help you. Let's get it done quick. How do we do it? Okay, well, let me stand up here. This is the way it's done. And my mom comes out and she's like, what are you doing? I'm like, they're planting the grass.